Evil is all around us. It's lurking in the shadows, hiding behind friendly smiles, and waiting to strike when we least expect it. You might think you're safe, but the truth is, evil people are everywhere. They could be your neighbor, your coworker, or even someone you consider a friend. And the scariest part? Most of us don't even realize when we're dealing with an evil person until it's too late. But don't worry, because today, we're going to change that. We're about to dive into the 10 most shocking signs that there's an evil person in your life. By the end of this video, you'll be armed with the knowledge you need to protect yourself and your loved ones from these dangerous individuals. Now, you might be wondering, why is this so important? Can't I just trust my gut? Well, here's the thing. Evil people are masters of deception. They're like chameleons, blending in with their surroundings and adapting to whatever situation they're in. They know exactly what to say and do to gain your trust, and before you know it, you're caught in their web of lies and manipulation. That's why it's crucial to learn these signs. They're like a secret code that can help you crack the mystery of who's truly good and who's hiding a dark side. By knowing what to look for, you'll be able to spot these toxic individuals before they can cause any real damage in your life. And let's be real, the consequences of letting an evil person into your life can be devastating. They can drain your energy, destroy your self-esteem, and even turn your whole world upside down. But with the right knowledge, you can protect yourself and maintain your peace of mind. In this video, we're going to break down 10 shocking signs that you're dealing with an evil person. Some of these might surprise you, and others might confirm suspicions you've had all along. But all of them are important to know if you want to keep yourself safe in this crazy world we live in. Let's kick things off with one of the most common and dangerous signs of an evil person. They always play the victim. Now, we're not talking about someone who's genuinely going through a tough time. We're talking about people who seem to have a never-ending stream of problems, and somehow, it's always someone else's fault. These folks have victim mentality down to an art form. No matter what happens, they're never to blame. Did they lose their job? It's because their boss had it out for them. Did their relationship fall apart? It's because their partner was impossible to please. Did they fail an exam? The teacher obviously made it too hard on purpose. At first, you might feel sorry for them. After all, it seems like the whole world is against them, right? But here's where it gets tricky. Evil people use this victim status to manipulate others. They know that by portraying themselves as the underdog, they can gain sympathy and support from those around them. Here's an example of how this might play out in real life. Let's say you have a coworker named Sarah. Sarah is always complaining about how unfair her workload is and how the boss seems to have it out for her. At first, you feel bad for her and maybe even try to help her out. But then you start to notice a pattern. Every time there's a group project, Sarah manages to do the least amount of work while complaining the most. When confronted about her lack of effort, she bursts into tears and talks about how stressed she is and how no one understands her struggles. Before you know it, the rest of the team is comforting her and picking up her slack. This is classic evil person behavior. By constantly playing the victim, Sarah avoids taking responsibility for her actions and manipulates others into doing her work for her. She's creating a situation where she benefits at the expense of everyone else's time and energy. So, why is this such a big red flag? Well, for starters, it shows a complete lack of accountability. Evil people who always play the victim are essentially saying that they have no control over their lives. Everything bad that happens to them is someone else's fault. This mindset allows them to justify all sorts of bad behavior because, in their minds, they're just reacting to the unfairness of the world. But here's the real kicker. This victim mentality is often a cover for their own manipulative and harmful actions. By constantly focusing on how they've been wronged, they distract from the ways they're wronging others. It's like a magician's trick. While you're busy feeling sorry for them, you don't notice how they're actually taking advantage of you. Moreover, people who always play the victim tend to drain the energy of those around them. They're like emotional vampires, constantly seeking attention and sympathy. If you find yourself feeling exhausted after spending time with someone, it might be because they're always dumping their problems on you and never taking responsibility for solving them. So, how do you protect yourself from these professional victims? The key is to pay attention to patterns. Everyone goes through tough times, and it's normal to need support now and then. But if someone in your life is constantly in crisis mode and never seems to learn from their mistakes or take steps to improve their situation, that's a red flag. Try setting some boundaries. Offer support, but don't let their problems become your problems. If they start complaining, gently steer the conversation towards solutions. Ask them, what do you think you could do to change this situation? If they're not interested in finding solutions and just want to wallow in their victimhood, that's a clear sign you're dealing with an evil person. Remember, true friends and good people will appreciate your support, but will also take steps to address their own issues. They won't expect you to constantly rescue them or solve all their problems. If someone in your life is always the victim and never the problem solver, it might be time to reevaluate that relationship. Now, let's move on to the second sign. Evil people are masters of manipulation. This is where things get really sneaky because manipulation isn't always obvious. In fact, the best manipulators are so smooth that you might not even realize you're being played until it's too late. Manipulation is all about control. Evil people use a variety of tactics to get others to do what they want, often without the person even realizing they're being influenced. It's like they have a secret remote control for other people's actions and emotions. These master manipulators have a whole toolkit of tricks they use. They might use guilt to make you feel bad for not doing what they want. They could use flattery to butter you up before asking for a favor. Or they might play on your insecurities to keep you dependent on them. The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes manipulation so dangerous. Let's look at a real-life scenario to help you spot this behavior. Imagine you have a friend named Mike. Mike always seems to know exactly what to say to get his way. When he wants you to help him move, he'll remind you of that time he helped you out of a jam. When he borrows money, he'll talk about how tight things are and how you're his only hope. At first, you might think Mike is just good at communicating his needs. But then you start to notice a pattern. Every interaction with Mike seems to end with you doing something for him, even if you initially didn't want to. And somehow, he always makes you feel like it was your idea in the first place. This is classic manipulative behavior. Mike is using your emotions and your sense of obligation to get what he wants. He's not considering your needs or feelings. He's only focused on his own agenda. One of the trickiest forms of manipulation is emotional manipulation. This is when someone uses your emotions against you to get what they want. They might intentionally make you feel guilty, afraid, or even happy if it serves their purpose. For example, a manipulative partner might say something like, "If you really loved me, you'd do this for me." This statement plays on your emotions and your desire to prove your love. It's a subtle form of blackmail that's hard to resist. Or they might use fear to control you. They could say things like, "You'll never find anyone better than me," or "You can't survive on your own." These statements are designed to make you feel insecure and dependent on them. So why is being a master manipulator such a big red flag? Well, for starters, it shows a fundamental lack of respect for others. Manipulators don't see people as individuals with their own needs and desires. Instead, they see them as tools to be used for their own benefit. Manipulation is also a form of emotional abuse. It can leave you feeling confused, guilty, and unsure of yourself. Over time, constant manipulation can erode your self-esteem and make you doubt your own judgment. You might start to feel like you can't trust your own thoughts and feelings. Moreover, relationships with manipulators are never truly equal. There's always an imbalance of power, with the manipulator calling the shots. This can lead to a toxic dynamic where you're constantly walking on eggshells, trying to avoid setting them off or giving them ammunition to manipulate you further. So how do you protect yourself from these master manipulators? The first step is awareness. Now that you know what to look for, you'll be better equipped to spot manipulative behavior when it happens. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with someone. Do you often feel guilty, confused, or like you've been pressured into something you didn't want to do? These could be signs that you're dealing with a manipulator. It's also important to trust your gut. If something feels off about a situation or a person's behavior, don't ignore that feeling. Evil people who are good at manipulation often rely on their targets ignoring their instincts. Setting clear boundaries is crucial when dealing with manipulators. Learn to say no and stick to it, even if they try to guilt trip you or make you feel bad. Remember, you have the right to make your own decisions and prioritize your own needs. Finally, don't be afraid to call out manipulative behavior when you see it. Sometimes, simply saying, "I feel like you're trying to manipulate me right now," can be enough to stop a manipulator in their tracks. They rely on their targets being unaware of what's happening, so shining a light on their tactics can be very effective. Now, let's dive into the third sign. Evil people often lack empathy. This is a big one, folks, because empathy is what connects us as human beings. It's our ability to understand and share the feelings of others. But for some people, this crucial emotional skill is simply missing. When we talk about a lack of empathy, we're not just talking about someone who's having a bad day and snaps at you. We're talking about a consistent pattern of behavior where a person seems incapable of putting themselves in someone else's shoes. They can't, or won't, consider how their actions might affect others. Imagine a world where no one cared about how you felt. Pretty scary, right? Well, that's the world evil people without empathy live in all the time. And unfortunately, they often try to drag others into that cold, uncaring world with them. Let's paint a picture of what this might look like in real life. Meet Tom. Tom is charming and charismatic at first glance. He's always the life of the party and seems to know everyone. But spend a little more time with Tom, and you start to notice something off. When a friend shares some bad news, Tom doesn't seem to react. He might say the right words like, "Oh, that's too bad," but his tone is flat, and he quickly changes the subject. If someone is crying, Tom looks uncomfortable and tries to leave the room as soon as possible. But it gets worse. When Tom's actions hurt someone else, he doesn't seem to care. If he's called out for saying something hurtful, he might respond with, "Why are you so sensitive?" Or, "It was just a joke. Lighten up." He never apologizes sincerely because he genuinely doesn't understand why he should. This is what a lack of empathy looks like. Tom is unable to connect with others on an emotional level. He can't understand or share their feelings, so he either ignores them or gets frustrated by them. Now, you might be thinking, so what if someone isn't touchy-feely? That doesn't make them evil, does it? Well, here's the thing. A lack of empathy can lead to all sorts of harmful behaviors. Without empathy, a person has no internal brake system to stop them from hurting others. They don't feel bad about lying, cheating, or manipulating because they can't understand the pain it causes. They might spread rumors without caring about how it affects the person they're talking about. They could make decisions that benefit themselves at the expense of others without a second thought. In relationships, a lack of empathy can be devastating. Imagine being with someone who never truly understands how you feel. When you're sad, they don't comfort you. When you're excited, they don't share your joy. Over time, this can leave you feeling lonely and unimportant, even when you're not alone. In the workplace, a boss without empathy can create a toxic environment. They might push their employees too hard, ignore signs of burnout, or dismiss concerns about work-life balance. They're focused solely on results, not on the well-being of the people achieving those results. So why is a lack of empathy such a big red flag? Well, empathy is like the glue that holds society together. It's what allows us to form deep connections, to care for one another, and to create a world where we consider the needs of others, not just our own. When someone lacks empathy, they're essentially operating outside of this social contract. They're like a bull in a china shop, crashing through life without regard for the emotional wreckage they leave behind. This can lead to all sorts of problematic behaviors, from minor inconsiderations to major ethical violations. Moreover, people without empathy often struggle to maintain long-term relationships. They might be able to charm people initially, but over time, their lack of emotional connection becomes apparent. Friends, partners, and even family members may start to feel used or unappreciated. Perhaps most alarmingly, a lack of empathy is often associated with more severe personality disorders, like narcissism or antisocial personality disorder. While not everyone who lacks empathy has these conditions, it's certainly a trait they share. So how do you protect yourself from people who lack empathy? The first step is to trust your feelings. If you consistently feel unheard, misunderstood, or emotionally neglected around someone, that's a red flag. Pay attention to how they react when you or others express emotions. Do they seem uncomfortable or dismissive? Do they try to change the subject quickly? These could be signs of an empathy deficit. It's also important to watch how they treat others, especially people they perceive as beneath them, like service workers. Someone who is rude to a waiter or dismissive of a janitor is showing you who they really are. Remember, you can't force someone to develop empathy. If you're dealing with someone who consistently shows a lack of empathy, the best thing you can do is set strong boundaries. Limit your emotional investment in the relationship and don't expect them to provide emotional support they're incapable of giving. Lastly, surround yourself with empathetic people. When you experience genuine empathy and emotional connection, it becomes easier to spot and avoid those who lack it. Your emotional well-being is important, and you deserve to be around people who can understand and share your feelings. Let's move on to the fourth sign. Evil people always think they're right. Now, we all know someone who likes to be right, but this goes way beyond that. We're talking about people who simply can't accept that they might be wrong about anything, ever. These folks have an answer for everything. No matter what the topic is, they're the expert. They'll argue their point to death, even when faced with clear evidence that they're mistaken. It's like they live in a world where they're always the smartest person in the room. But here's the scary part. This isn't just about being stubborn or opinionated. For evil people, always being right is a way to control others and avoid taking responsibility for their actions. The "I'm never wrong" mentality. Let's look at how this might play out in real life. Imagine you have a coworker named Alex. Alex has an opinion on everything, from how to do your job to what you should eat for lunch. When you try to share your own ideas, Alex quickly shuts you down, explaining why your approach won't work. One day, Alex makes a big mistake at work, but instead of owning up to it, Alex finds a way to blame everyone else. The data was wrong, the instructions weren't clear, someone else dropped the ball. Alex has an excuse for everything and refuses to admit any fault. This is classic always right behavior. Alex can't accept being wrong because it threatens their sense of superiority and control. Instead of learning from mistakes, Alex doubles down and deflects blame. So why is this always right attitude such a big red flag? Well, for starters, it shows a complete lack of humility and self-awareness. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes. It's how we learn and grow. But people who always think they're right can't grow because they never think they need to. This attitude also makes it impossible to have real, meaningful relationships. Friendships, romantic partnerships, and even work relationships all require give and take. You need to be able to admit when you're wrong and consider other people's perspectives. Someone who's always right leaves no room for anyone else's thoughts or feelings. Moreover, this behavior often goes hand in hand with gaslighting. When someone insists they're right even in the face of clear evidence to the contrary, they can make you start to doubt your own perception of reality. Over time, this can seriously mess with your self-esteem and mental health. So how do you deal with someone who always thinks they're right? First, remember that their behavior isn't about you. It's about their own insecurities and need for control. Don't get drawn into endless arguments. These people thrive on debate because it gives them a chance to prove their superiority. Instead, calmly state your position once and then disengage. You could say something like, "I understand you see it differently, but this is my perspective." Set clear boundaries. Let them know that while you respect their opinion, you also have the right to your own thoughts and feelings. If they continue to bulldoze over your views, it might be time to limit your interactions with them. Lastly, trust your own judgment. Don't let someone else's insistence that they're always right make you doubt yourself. Your opinions and experiences are valid, even if they don't align with what the know-it-all believes. Now, let's tackle the fifth sign. Evil people often take pleasure in others' misfortune. This is a particularly chilling trait because it goes against our basic human instinct to empathize with others. We're talking about people who not only don't feel bad when others suffer, but actually enjoy it. In German, there's a word for this, Schadenfreude. It means taking pleasure in someone else's pain or misfortune. While most of us might occasionally feel a twinge of this, like when a rival team loses, for evil people, it's a regular source of joy. These folks might laugh when someone falls, spread gossip about others' failures, or even actively work to bring others down. It's like they're playing a twisted game where other people's losses are their wins. Let's paint a picture of what this looks like in real life. Meet Lisa. Lisa always seems to have the latest gossip about everyone's troubles. When a coworker gets passed over for a promotion, Lisa is the first to spread the news, barely concealing her glee. If a friend's relationship ends, Lisa is right there, not to offer support, but to dig for juicy details and share them with others. But it goes beyond just gossip. Lisa seems to light up when talking about others' misfortunes. She might say things like, "Well, that's what he gets for being so arrogant," or "I always knew she'd fail eventually." There's a gleam in her eye when she's recounting someone else's downfall. This is what it looks like when someone enjoys others' misfortune. They feed off negativity and seem to thrive when those around them are struggling. So why is taking pleasure in others' misfortune such a big red flag? Well, for starters, it shows a fundamental lack of empathy and compassion. Most of us feel bad when others are suffering, even if we don't particularly like the person. But for these folks, others' pain is a source of entertainment or satisfaction. This attitude can also be incredibly toxic in relationships. Imagine having a friend who's secretly happy when things go wrong for you, or a partner who enjoys seeing you fail. It creates an environment of negativity and mistrust. Moreover, people who enjoy others' misfortune often actively work to bring others down. They might spread rumors, sabotage others' efforts, or create drama just to see others struggle. This can make them dangerous in both personal and professional settings. So how do you protect yourself from people who enjoy others' misfortune? First, pay attention to how they react when you or others face setbacks. Do they seem a little too interested? Do they spread the news quickly? These could be red flags. Be careful about what information you share with these people. They often use others' misfortunes as social currency, so the less they know about your struggles, the better. Surround yourself with people who genuinely celebrate your successes and support you during tough times. This will make it easier to spot those who don't have your best interests at heart. Lastly, if you notice someone consistently taking pleasure in others' pain, consider distancing yourself from them. Their negativity can be contagious, and you don't need that kind of energy in your life. Let's move on to the sixth sign. Evil people are often extremely charming, at least at first. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't being charming a good thing? And usually it is. But when we're talking about evil people, charm is often a weapon, not a virtue. These folks have charisma dialed up to 11. When you first meet them, they're magnetic. They know exactly what to say to make you feel special, understood, and valued. They're often the life of the party, the person everyone wants to be around. But here's the catch. This charm is a mask. It's a tool they use to draw people in, to gain trust and admiration. And once they have you hooked, that's when the real trouble begins. Let's look at how this might play out in real life. Imagine you meet someone named Chris at a party. Chris is funny, attentive, and seems genuinely interested in everything you have to say. You leave the party feeling like you've made a new best friend. Over the next few weeks, Chris is amazing. They remember little details about your life. They're always available when you need them. And they make you feel like the most important person in the world. You start to wonder how you ever lived without Chris in your life. But then, slowly, things start to change. Chris starts asking for favors, big ones. They might need to borrow money or want you to lie for them. If you hesitate, they remind you of all the times they've been there for you. The charm is still there, but now it feels manipulative. This is what false charm looks like. It's not genuine kindness or interest. It's a tool used to manipulate and control others. So why is extreme charm such a red flag? Well, it's not that being charming is bad in itself. The problem is when charm is used as a mask to hide darker intentions. Extremely charming people can be master manipulators. They know how to push your emotional buttons to get what they want. They might use flattery to cloud your judgment, or play on your insecurities to keep you dependent on them. This false charm can also make it hard to see other red flags. When someone is constantly making you feel good, you might overlook or excuse their bad behavior. It's like being blinded by a bright light. You can't see the dangers lurking in the shadows. Moreover, when the charm starts to fade, it can be incredibly disorienting. You might find yourself wondering what happened to the amazing person you first met. This can lead to a cycle of trying to regain their approval, which can be emotionally exhausting. So how do you protect yourself from people who use charm as a weapon? First, remember that actions speak louder than words. Pay attention to what they do, not just what they say. Are they consistently kind and considerate, or does their behavior change when they want something from you? Be wary of people who shower you with attention and compliments right from the start. While it's nice to feel special, genuine relationships usually take time to develop. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, even if you can't quite put your finger on why, don't ignore that feeling. Your subconscious might be picking up on red flags that your conscious mind hasn't processed yet. Lastly, maintain your boundaries. Don't let someone's charm pressure you into doing things you're not comfortable with. A genuinely good person will respect your limits, no matter how charming they are. Remember, true kindness and genuine interest don't come with strings attached. If someone's charm feels like it's designed to get something from you, it probably is. Now that we've covered the first 6 signs, let's quickly go through the last 4 red flags that can help you spot an evil person. These might not be as immediately obvious as the others, but they're just as important to watch out for. Evil people often have a complicated relationship with the truth. They lie constantly, sometimes about big things, sometimes about small things that don't even matter. It's like they can't help themselves. These aren't just white lies to spare someone's feelings. We're talking about a pattern of deception that touches every aspect of their lives. They might lie about their past, their accomplishments, or even what they had for breakfast. It's as if the truth is a foreign concept to them. Why is this a red flag? Well, constant lying shows a fundamental disrespect for others. It's a way of manipulating reality to suit their needs, regardless of how it affects those around them. Plus, if someone is willing to lie about small things, imagine what they might be hiding when it really matters. This sign ties in closely with always playing the victim. Evil people have a hard time accepting responsibility for their actions. When things go wrong, it's always someone else's fault. They might blame their upbringing for their bad behavior, their boss for their poor work performance, or their partner for relationship problems. It's like they live in a world where they're never at fault. This is dangerous because it means they never learn from their mistakes. They can't grow or improve because, in their mind, they're not doing anything wrong. It also means they'll keep repeating harmful behaviors because they don't see any reason to change. Evil people often struggle with intense jealousy. They can't stand to see others succeed or be happy. This goes beyond normal competitive feelings. It's a deep-seated resentment of others' good fortune. They might try to downplay others' achievements, spread rumors to tarnish someone's success, or even actively work to sabotage others. It's like they believe that for them to win, everyone else has to lose. This jealousy is a red flag because it shows a lack of genuine care for others. It also often leads to toxic behaviors as they try to bring others down to their level instead of working to improve themselves. Lastly, evil people often have an inflated sense of their own importance. They genuinely believe they're better than everyone else. This isn't just confidence, it's an unshakable belief in their own superiority. They might constantly brag about their achievements, dismiss others' opinions, or treat people they see as beneath them with contempt. It's like they're the star of their own movie, and everyone else is just an extra. This superiority complex is dangerous because it allows them to justify all sorts of bad behavior. After all, if they're better than everyone else, why should they have to follow the same rules? So, what do you do if you recognize these signs in someone in your life? First, trust your instincts. If something feels off about a person, even if you can't quite put your finger on why, listen to that feeling. Set clear boundaries. Evil people often try to push limits, so it's important to establish and maintain your boundaries. Be firm about what you will and won't accept in your relationships. Don't try to change them. It's not your job to fix someone else, especially if they don't see anything wrong with their behavior. Focus on protecting yourself instead. Seek support. If you're dealing with an evil person, especially in a close relationship, don't go it alone. Reach out to friends, family, or a professional for help and guidance. And remember, it's okay to walk away. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is to remove toxic people from your life, even if it's difficult. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the subtle manipulation tactics of evil people to their more obvious destructive behaviors. It might seem overwhelming, even a bit scary. But remember, knowledge is power. By understanding these signs, you're already taking a huge step towards protecting yourself. You're arming yourself with the tools to spot potential danger before it can truly impact your life. But here's something important to keep in mind. Not everyone who shows one or two of these signs is necessarily evil. We all have our flaws and bad days. The key is to look for patterns of behavior, not isolated incidents. The goal isn't to become paranoid or to see evil around every corner. Instead, it's about being aware, being cautious, and valuing yourself enough to walk away from people who consistently display these toxic traits. Remember, you deserve relationships that are built on mutual respect, trust, and genuine care. Don't settle for less just because someone is charming or because you're afraid of being alone. As you go forward, keep these signs in mind, but also trust your instincts. Often, our gut feelings pick up on things our conscious mind hasn't fully processed yet. If something feels off about a person or a situation, take a step back and evaluate. And most importantly, remember that you have the power to choose who you allow into your life. You have the right to surround yourself with people who lift you up, support you, and bring out the best in you. Stay safe out there, and remember, awareness is your superpower. Use it wisely, and don't be afraid to protect your peace. You've got this.